If you're scrolling right now, stop, because this story might just make you believe in miracles again. It begins on a stormy evening outside a grand military mansion, the kind that looks powerful from the outside but echoes with silence within. Inside, two little girls, no older than 7, were tearing through the hallways, laughing one second, crying the next, and locking themselves in rooms just to see who would come chase them. They were the twin daughters of General Marcus Reed, one of the toughest, most decorated generals the country had ever known. But for all his strength on the battlefield, there was one war he couldn't win: raising his own daughters. The twins had been through 12 nannies, yes, 12 in just 6 months. Some left crying, others left shouting, and one even packed her bags in the middle of the night. Every new nanny promised they'd stay, but within days, the chaos, the screaming, and the heartbreaking silence from the general himself would send them running. General Reed wasn't cruel, just broken. His wife, the twins' mother, had died 3 years earlier in a helicopter crash during a relief mission. The girls had watched the flag-draped coffin come home, and something in them shattered that day. Since then, the general buried himself in work, commanding soldiers, but unable to command peace inside his own home. Then one morning, as the 12th nanny stormed out shouting, "Those girls are impossible," the general's longtime aide, Sergeant Daniels, sighed and handed him another file. "Sir, there's one last applicant," he said hesitantly. The general didn't even look up. "If she's breathing, she'll quit too," he muttered. Daniels cleared his throat. "It's not a she this time, sir." That made the general pause. A single dad. Name's Ethan Cole. Former staff sergeant. Honorable discharge, 2 tours. Has a daughter about the twins' age. The general frowned. A man? Applying for a nanny job? Daniels nodded. He said he's not looking for pity, sir. Just a chance. And so, that's how Ethan Cole, a humble single dad veteran, walked into the mansion where 12 had failed before him. He wasn't dressed fancy, just jeans, boots, and a calm smile that carried a quiet kind of confidence. When he first met the twins, they didn't even look at him. They were sitting on the stairs, arms crossed, identical scowls on their faces. "So," Ethan said gently, "which one of you is the boss around here?" Neither answered. "Good," he said. "Because that's supposed to be me." That was the first time in months that the general heard laughter echo through his house, small, reluctant giggles that broke the silence like sunlight through clouds. Ethan didn't try to control the girls, he tried to understand them. When they shouted, he listened. When they cried, he sat beside them. When they pushed boundaries, he didn't yell, he reminded them that their mom would want them to be brave, not angry. He cooked breakfast with them. He helped them build pillow forts in the living room. He taught them how to tie bootlaces military style and salute like soldiers. And one night, when one of the girls, Emily, had a nightmare about her mom's accident, Ethan stayed beside her until morning, telling stories of the heroes he'd known, of strength, of hope, of love that doesn't fade, even after goodbye. Slowly, the walls around those little hearts began to crumble, but not everyone was happy about it. General Reed didn't trust easily. When he saw Ethan teaching his daughters to climb trees in the backyard, he barked, "They're not soldiers, Cole. They're children." Ethan calmly replied, "Exactly, sir. And that's what they need to be again." The general didn't respond, but that night, he found himself standing by the window, watching his daughters laugh under the moonlight for the first time in years. Weeks passed. The twins began waking up early to make breakfast with Ethan. They drew pictures for him, called him Mr. E, and soon after, just E. The house that once echoed with shouting was now filled with music, crayons, and laughter. One day, Emily came running to her dad's office, clutching a paper. "Daddy! Look!" The general took it. It was a drawing of him, the twins, and Ethan all holding hands. At the bottom, in crayon, were the words, "Our family again." That broke something inside the hardened soldier. That night, he walked into Ethan's room. "You did what 12 couldn't," the general said quietly. "You gave my daughters their childhood back." Ethan smiled modestly. "No, sir. They just needed someone who wouldn't leave when it got hard." But the biggest test came weeks later. One of the twins fell seriously ill, a rare fever that the doctors struggled to control. The general panicked. It was like reliving his wife's loss all over again. Ethan didn't leave her side. He stayed awake for 3 nights straight, holding her hand, whispering prayers, and keeping her calm. When she finally opened her eyes and smiled weakly at him, saying, You didn't leave," tears rolled down his face. "I promised I wouldn't," he whispered. When she recovered, the general hugged Ethan for the first time. "You're not their nanny anymore," he said. "You're family." From that day on, Ethan didn't just work for the general, he lived with them, side by side, helping raise those girls as his own. And when the general finally took off his uniform to retire, it was Ethan who stood beside him, smiling proudly as the girls, all three of them now inseparable, ran across the field with laughter that reached the heavens, because sometimes, family isn't about blood, it's about who stays when everyone else walks away. So if this story touched your heart even a little, give it a like, share it with someone who believes in second chances. And don't forget to subscribe, because stories like this remind us all, heroes don't just fight wars, sometimes, they heal broken homes.